Hello, everyone, and welcome to LinguaVis podcast. Today, we are honored to have Dr. Emmanuel García Ponce. He holds a master's in applied linguistics from UAMEX and a PhD in ELT and applied linguistics from the University of Birmingham in UK. His postgraduate studies at UNAM focus on teaching Spanish as a foreign language. His research looks at classroom interaction and teacher cognition, and he's recently been involved in projects funded by the British Council. He also coordinates the master's program in applied linguistics in English teaching at the University of Guanajuato. And he's a level 2 member of Mexico's National System of Researchers. His first book is named Exploring English as a Foreign Language Classroom Interactions, Factors that Impact on Learning Performance during Speaking Practice, and his second book is named Task-Based Language Teaching in Action. Dr. Emmanuel, it's great to have you here with us today, and welcome to this new episode.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I am very happy to be here and to have the opportunity to share part of my academic and professional journey with you.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, for being here today. It's a pleasure. So to start, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey as a researcher?
Yeah, of course. I would say that my journey as a researcher has been shaped by my own experiences as a language teacher. Sorry, first of all, language learner, first of all. Then I became a teacher and finally a teacher educator. And now as a postgraduate program coordinator. So I've gone through all these experiences and I can tell you that my academic and professional journey have been shaped by all these experiences. And I began my professional career in English language teaching. And very early, I became interested not only in how English is taught, but also in what actually happens inside classrooms. For example, how teachers make decisions, how students participate, how interaction supports learning, and how social and institutional conditions influence language development. And my postgraduate studies were very important in this process. And as you said, I did my master's in applied linguistics, and this experience helped me understand that classroom practice can be studied systematically with the use of research, and that teaching is not only about applying techniques, but also about critically understanding learning, the context, identity, assessment, and most importantly, inequality. Later, in my PhD in English language teaching in applied linguistics at the University of Birmingham allowed me to develop a much deeper research identity. It helped me see language teaching as a complex social, pedagogical, and institutional practice. And I would say that over the years, my research interests have been different. They have expanded. And for example, I have worked on classroom interaction, task-based language teaching, very recently, language assessment, teacher education, technology-enhanced learning, and more recently, equity and inequality in English language education. But I think that a central concern in my work is that English is often presented as a tool for opportunity, but access to quality English learning is not equally distributed. So this has been the message that I've tried to communicate, for example, in my recent publications and also in conferences, that learning is not equally distributed and that we have to do something against these few opportunities that some students have, for example, in universities.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, for your shared insights. So, you have recently published some important work, including your new book, Task-Based Language Teaching in Action. So, could you tell us more about this book? what inspired you to start writing it, and what is your book about? What is like the main idea that you are describing or that you are analyzing in that book?
Yes, thank you very much for asking this because it's my new baby. I'm really proud of my new baby. You know, I'm like a father with a new baby. So I want to show off my book to everyone. So thank you very much. And yeah, of course, I would like to talk about my recent book, which is Task-Based Language Teaching in Action. And this book aims to connect theory, research, and classroom practice in a way that is useful for teachers, student teachers, and also teacher educators. And I first began writing the book like 5 years ago. So it took me like 4 and some months to finish writing this book. It was a complex book because I knew that I had so much evidence from my research, but also evidence from other studies. I had some literature notes that were not used for my publications. So I had like so much information about TDLT and the use of tasks in the classroom. So I said, okay, I have this available information that I need to do something with. So I said, I need to write a book. But I started writing the book without a clear or specific message that I wanted to communicate. So in the process of writing the book, then I defined the message and what I wanted to communicate in this book. But before I tell you more about the message, I would like to tell you that the book focuses on TVLT primarily, but also on the use of communicative tasks. So first of all, in the first part of the book, I show that the benefits of doing different practices in the classroom following TVLT. But then I focused on other chapters in the use of tasks, communicative tasks. And to show the benefits of using communicative tasks in the classroom, I rely on different empirical evidence coming from my own research, but also from research that has been conducted by other colleagues. So I wanted to show the benefits of using communicative tasks, but also the complexities of using those type of activities. One of the main ideas of the book is that tasks are not just classroom activities. A task needs to be carefully designed, sequenced, implemented, and assessed. So I wanted to communicate that using a task is really complex. It's highly integrate. Oh, sorry, I'm not pronouncing the word correctly. It's highly complex. It's really complicated. So I wanted to communicate that. But I think that the book helps teachers think about questions such as what makes an activity a task? How can we design tasks that promote interaction, like in our context? How can we support learners before, during, and after a task? And how can we evaluate language use in a way that is meaningful and fair? And there are also other chapters in the book that also shows teachers and also students what would be other factors that influence interaction during a task. Like, for example, the a task difficulty, the very characteristics of a task. So depending on the task that you use, that's going to definitely influence students' behavior during the task, the beliefs of teachers and students regarding the task, and other factors that I mentioned in the book. So basically the message in the first 3-4 chapters is that it's very complex to use a task in a classroom, and more so in a foreign language context like Mexican. So I communicated that message in those chapters, but I also suggest some possible ways to address those challenges that teachers and students may face while using communicative tasks. And another benefit of the book is that um, it provides some recommendations for teachers and also for researchers in terms of future research or directions that can be taken for enhancing interaction in the classroom. And in this last chapter, chapter 5, I proposed something called task-supported language teaching, which is like a adapted version of TBLT, and which I think is going to be more useful for the context of Mexican higher education, for example. So if you want to know more about task-supported language teaching, then you should read my book.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And actually, now that you mention it, your research is going to be of great help to support my future proposal regarding the designing of tasks. So as you may remember, I'm going to use these procedures to prove what I want to investigate in my research. Now, talking about your book, I would like to know, as a researcher and as a writer, what has been some challenges that you have faced throughout the process of writing in general, and especially this last new book that you have
The
recently
challenges
published.
of Okay, the challenges of writing this book.
Yes.
I think that the main challenge that I faced was to
Mhm.
decide what would be the general message to communicate throughout the chapters. So I think it was possible to define the message as I was writing the book. So I was very lucky that I was writing the book, but at the same time, I was understanding the general message that I wanted to communicate to teachers, students, teacher educators. And I think that it is a very useful book for those who are interested in implementing TBLT and also the use of communicative tasks. And I think that this book would be also useful for those who are interested in implementing innovation in general. There is a section which discusses the benefits and also the challenges of implementing any kind of educational innovation. So we can link some of the ideas and also the messages of the book to other intentions like other communicative approaches.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Emmanuel, for sharing. What are your plans for your professional development in the coming years? We know that you have been constructing a career here in the field of doing research, and we would like to know now that you are writing books, what will be like your next step, or what will be like your goal for the future years?
Oh, yes, that's a very difficult question because this is my last year as a program coordinator. I've been coordinating BA and MA programs for almost 8 years. So I think it's now time to focus more on my research. So what are my plans for my professional development? I think I'm going to focus more on my research. That's an incredible and also important way to impact professional development, doing research. So that's what I'm going to do in the upcoming years, hopefully. So I would like to focus more and also consolidating my research work in three main areas. Like now I think that I'm leaning towards language assessment. So I would like to continue that line. Equity in English language teaching is another new area that I am exploring, and in general, teacher education. So I think that next year I would continue or consolidating. I would continue consolidating these three areas. So those are my plans for professional development. And yes, I am now writing my third book, and I would like to share that with you, that it is almost finished. Well, at least the first draft. It is about blended learning in language teaching. I think that is going to be another baby that I'm going to have very soon, hopefully, and it's going to be an important book that is going to be published in an important um, editorial house. Would that be the word? Anyway, so I'm going to focus on that too, and I will continue doing my research activities like publishing and also presenting research evidence, etc. But I think that one of my current priorities is to continue developing research that examines how socioeconomic conditions influence English language learning and assessment outcomes. So last year, I finished a program that measured language development in terms of socioeconomic status opportunities of students. And we saw that there are many things to address, at least in the University of Guanajuato. And I will continue with another project funded by Duolingo, starting very soon. It's going to be a very ambitious project, but I'm very happy that our project was selected. I am going to collaborate with two researchers from the University of Bedfordshire, and I am going to be the only Mexican participating in the project. And the data collection will take place at 3 contexts here in Mexico, and we expect the participation of around 300 students. And it's basically the same line: assessment outcomes, language learning, and socioeconomic conditions. So I'm going to continue focusing on that. And that project will continue in 2027 and part of 2028. So it's an ambitious and also a long project that I'm going to be participating in. And what else should I say? And in general, I would like to continue focusing on understanding how socioeconomic status inequalities shape students' trajectories, and how institutions can make more informed and fair decisions, obviously, to address these problems. I also want to continue working on research related to language assessment in higher education, as I said before. And I think I am very lucky that I collaborate with researchers that have this research line very consolidated. So I'm trying to explore this other line, as I said before. And an important area for me is postgraduate education. So I think that I am going to stop being the coordinator of the program, but definitely I'm going to continue participating in the program as a teacher. And that's also, I think, part of my professional development. Being a teacher and teaching in front of the classroom, that's also a way to develop professionally.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Emmanuel, for sharing. And you mentioned something very important, and I think that is one of the best qualities that you have as a researcher and also as a person, because you are always like talking, or you are very related to people that is in the same field that you have, and also you are always trying to collaborate with different people, and I think that is very important in your career because, well, that influence the studies that you develop, and also that push you to continue doing research in the
Right.
areas where you have interest.
Right. Yes.
Yes, it is very interesting to know what your future plans are, estimated doctor. I will follow up on everything you do on regarding research because as Briza mentions, your qualities as a researcher can be clearly seen within the papers that you write, the articles that you present, and the research that you do that is very meaningful and that is really leading towards a change in our field. That is something that we need to continue working on
Of course.
as
Yeah.
English teachers, as applied linguists, and especially now as researchers as well. So, commenting a little bit on your experience as an MA coordinator, in your book Task-Based Language Teaching in Action, you emphasize the importance of connecting theory with real classroom practice and
Right.
helping teachers develop a deeper understanding on how learning actually happens. That really highlights the value of continuous professional development. So,
Right.
from your perspective as a coordinator, why is it important to pursue a master's degree in this field? And how does postgraduate studies influence teachers' professional practice, especially in the terms of skills and knowledge that we develop as teachers?
Oh boy. Well, I think that pursuing a master's degree, like for example in applied linguistics or English language teaching, is important, of course, because it allows teachers to move beyond routine practice and develop a more critical, informed, and research-based understanding of what they do. And you know that we try to do that in the MA program. We want students to become critical, informed, and that they critical and informed students, but that they also have this research-based on understanding of what they do in the classroom. Many teachers begin their careers with practical knowledge, which is of course extremely valuable, but they know how to manage the classroom, for example, prepare lessons, and respond to students. But postgraduate study helps them ask deeper questions, like why do I teach in this way? What assumptions inform my decisions? What evidence supports this method? How do my students' social, linguistic, and educational backgrounds affect their learning? How can I evaluate my teaching more systematically? So again, they may have the practical knowledge or they have the practical knowledge, but a master's degree allows them to develop a more critical and research-based knowledge of their own context, for example, the classroom. And I think that a master's degree also helps teachers develop important academic and professional skills. This includes critical reading, research design, you're familiar with that, data analysis, academic writing, you've been writing a lot, and that's also very valuable. The fact that we write academically definitely helps us develop different skills. Curriculum analysis, materials evaluation, and assessment literacy. I think that these skills are essential because teachers today are expected to make decisions in an increasingly complex educational context. So in order to make appropriate decisions, they should have these academic and professional skills that, of course, a master's degree offers them. And from my perspective, postgraduate study transforms teachers because it gives them language to understand their own practice. It helps them see that teaching is not only technical, it is also intellectual, social, ethical, and political. In English language teaching, this is particularly important because English is connected to issues of access, identity, opportunity, and inequality. So, postgraduate education can help teachers become more reflective and more aware of their broader consequences of their work. So, many benefits, many opportunities are given if they follow or continue developing professionally.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Emmanuel, for sharing. And as you know, we are also students from the master's program in applied linguistics to English teaching in the University of Guanajuato. where you have been teaching for several years. So, in your experience, how do you consider that the master program have been changing through these years? Because we know that every year students are like, well, generations are different, right? So how do you think that this change has been happening through these years?
Oh boy, definitely the program has changed in very important ways. And over the years, it has become more responsive to the needs of teachers, the students, institutions, and the field of applied linguistics in general. I don't know if you are aware, but we in the past few months we have been working on a new version of the MA program, and we thought that it was necessary because there are new needs, there are new perspectives, there is new information, and definitely we have to respond to those new perspectives to offer an updated EMI program that is responsive to teachers and students' needs. I think that in the past, many postgraduate programs in English language teaching focused mainly on methods, classroom techniques, and also linguistic theory. These areas remain important, of course, but the field has expanded considerably. Today, we need to address issues such as language assessment, technology, artificial intelligence, inclusion, equity, multilingualism, teacher identity, educational policy, and equity. And I do believe the MA program, the current and the future version of the MA program has gradually incorporated these broader concerns. So I think that is an updated, or this program responds to current concerns related to language and also to teaching and learning. Another important change is the stronger emphasis on research. We know that for some, that has been a complaint or a problem, but we know that research is very important as part of an MA program. And in terms of research, the students are not only expected to consume academic knowledge, but also to produce knowledge from their own context. That's another aim of the MA program that you are studying. This is very important because teachers in Mexico face specific challenges that cannot always be understood through theories developed in other contexts. Through your thesis, through your research project, students contribute to understanding local realities in English language teaching, and most importantly, in Mexican context. So you are conducting situated applied research, which is highly valuable for professional development. So this emphasis on research has been part of the program. And in the new version coming very soon, we still think that research should be conducted. So it's going to be another important part of the program. It will continue being that important part of the program. And I think the program has also changed because students themselves have changed, as you said. Many students now enter the program with diverse professional experiences, digital literacies, and also research interests. So some are interested in classroom interaction, for example, other in assessment, technology, teacher education, discourse analysis, or language policy. And I do believe this diversity has enriched the program definitely. But overall, I would say that the MA has moved towards a more critical, research-informed, and context-sensitive vision of English language teaching. And I do believe this is one of the strengths of the program.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights on this matter, Professor Dr. Emmanuel. Now, as we would like to know, what challenges have you faced as a mentor and now as a coordinator within the program?
Well, as a mentor, I think that one of the main challenges is supporting students as they develop their own perception, their own identity, I would say, as researchers. Many students enter the program with valuable teaching experience, but they may initially feel insecure about, for example, academic reading, research design, methodology, and also academic writing. You know how challenging it is to write academically. So those may be some of the challenges that my students would face, and they also become my own challenges. So they develop this identity, and then they are able to cope with all these demands. I would say those are the main challenges, of course. So part of my role is to help them understand that becoming a researcher is a gradual process, right? It takes time. It also takes time to become an academic writer, an academic reader, a researcher in general. So it's a progressive process, a gradual process. Um, and I think that another challenge is helping students narrow or define their research ideas. For example, students may begin with very broad interests like motivation. I want to do something related to motivation or related to speaking, technology, assessment. But one of the challenges that I commonly face, like for example, teaching Estancia 1, is help them transform those interests into feasible, coherent, and meaningful research projects. So of course they have to narrow down their ideas so then they come up with a feasible project that they can complete within the, within the 2 years of the master's degree. And as coordinator, I think the the challenges are bigger. Coordinating a postgraduate program involves academic, administrative, institutional, and human dimensions. We can call them dimensions or skills. So you have to develop all those skills in order to coordinate the program. It's not only about organizing courses or schedules, it is about supporting students, working with teachers, responding to institutional requirements, maintaining academic quality, and ensuring that the program remains relevant and up to date. One important challenge is balancing institutional demands with students' needs. Postgraduate students often have jobs, families, and other responsibilities, and many are full-time teachers. So we need to think carefully about how to support them without lowering our academic standards. Another challenge is strengthening the program in a context where postgraduate education must constantly demonstrate its social and academic value. For me, the key is to keep building a program that is rigorous, but also humane, academically demanding, but also supportive, theoretically strong, but connected to real educational problems. So it's a huge commitment, it's a huge responsibility to be a program coordinator. So this sometimes becomes one of the challenges of coordinating the program.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Emmanuel. And as you mentioned, well, I think that it's very challenging because you have different roles and sometimes with the same people, right? you have been, for example, with me, you have been the coordinator of the program, you are my tutor, you also are my thesis director, and you have like different roles like with the same students. So uh, I have seen that sometimes it's difficult, but I think that you have achieved that role because, oh, the different roles, because you have like different personalities with every role that you have. So, well, that's very interesting. So, in case of our listeners and people who are interested in learning more about applied linguistics in the ELT field, where can they find more information about this program, and what would you say to encourage them to apply to this MA program as a coordinator? And we ask you this question because we consider that our field is like very interesting, and we have also the SCT scholarship. So being here in the master program, I think that is a great opportunity, but also it is a big responsibility because we have to do a lot of different things and a lot of different activities that are not only related with the study, but we have to do research, we have to attend classes, and also we have this podcast, and we do like different activities in different areas in order to be here. So what would be like your advice and your recommendation to invite people and encourage them to enter to the master program?
Okay, I think that, well, LinguaVis listeners who are interested in the MA in applied linguistics and English language teaching, you can look for information through official channels of the Universidad de Guanajuato, like, for example, Departamento de Lenguas, División de Ciencias Sociales y Humanidades. But we have our own website. So if you go to your browser and just input Lingüística Aplicada UGTO, it will take you directly to our website, in which you can see full information about the program, subjects, important information, scholarship opportunities, and also important information that you should know before applying for the MA program. And also they can also contact the program directly to ask about admission requirements, the curriculum, research line, and the application process. I am going to give you the email address that you can use to get all this information. It is basically lingüística.aplicada, ningún símbolo, solamente lingüística, sin símbolos, aplicada @ugto.mx. So you can use this address to contact me and require more information about the program that I am going to be very happy to share with you. And what I would say to those considering applying is this. If you are an English teacher, a language professional, or someone interested in understanding language education more deeply, this master's degree can be a very important step in your professional development. And the MA is not only for people who want to become researchers in a traditional sense, it is also for teachers who want to improve their practice, understand their classrooms better, design better materials, assess students more fairly, and contribute to educational change in their institutions. I would also encourage potential applicants not to feel intimidated by postgraduate study. It is demanding, of course, but it is also a space for growth. The students are supported in developing their academic voice, their research skills, and their professional confidence. So you can start this program with no or limited knowledge of research. And of course, we're going to help you develop the necessary research skills. In the end, I believe that postgraduate study can transform the way teachers see themselves. It helps them recognize that they are not only implementers of methods or institutional policies. They are for professionals capable of producing knowledge, questioning assumptions, and contributing to the future of English language teaching. So this is a great opportunity to change that.
So much, Doctor. All your words are very insightful and they really resonate with what we do in this amazing program. All the research that we conduct is always aimed towards improving what we see that we we need to work on as a society regarding teaching languages, especially English. So we really appreciate having you here today. So to close today's episode, we truly want to say thank you for sharing your research, your experience as a coordinator, and the information about your current work, especially your new book. Your work reminds us of the importance of understanding the impact of postgraduate studies in research journeys. And we truly appreciate your time, your generosity, and valuable contribution to this podcast. Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, in the name of all the LinguaVis team for being here today.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It has been a pleasure to be part of this conversation and to share some reflections on my journey, my research, and the importance of postgraduate studies in English language teaching. I also want to congratulate you for creating this podcast space. Initiatives like this are very valuable because they allow students, teachers, and researchers to have conversations that go beyond the classroom. And they help us build academic community and make knowledge more accessible. So congratulations on that. And I hope that this conversation encourages listeners to continue learning, researching, and reflecting on their own teaching practice. English language teaching is a field that constantly changes, and we need professionals who are not only well prepared, but also critical, ethical, and committed to the context. Thank you again, and it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel, and thank you also for our listeners for tuning into this episode of LinguaVis. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Until the next time.
Until the next time.
Mhm.